Hello, and welcome to Propaganda at its Finest, a podcast where I talk about propaganda from different time periods and how it shaped society at the time. Today's episode, we will be talking about one of the most famous times in propaganda history, World War II Germany. I will be talking about all the Nazi propaganda that led to a whole country demonizing a group of people. To understand propaganda more clearly, let's stop for a second and talk about what propaganda is. Propaganda, according to the Webster's Dictionary, is ideas, facts, or allegations spread deliberately to further one's cause or damage an opposing cause. So, the next time you see an ad for a politician, think about how they're using their time and messaging to get you to think or do something. But alas, modern propaganda is for another episode. Let's start in 1933. After Hitler's seizure of power, he appointed a man named Joseph Goebbels, feels weird to say, to be head of the newly established government agency, the Reich Ministry for Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. Now, I think it's safe to say that he added the term enlightenment to make it seem less hostile, but the ministry was anything but. The ministry made sure to infiltrate all forms of art to get their message across, from theater to the art room, photography. There was propaganda to be made. Before all the anti Semitic propaganda started, the ministry took on the task of making Germans understand why the war was happening. Soon after the Ministry of Propaganda was started, they began releasing imagery that depicted children and families to help get the German people on their side. In 1934, the propaganda department released an illustration of a German soldier and what most would see as a stereotypical German man putting up a pole with a Nazi symbol on it. Written in German on the poster, it reads National Health, National Community, Child Protection, Protection of Mothers, Care for Travelers are the task of the NS Welfare Service. Join now. Aside from giving them a cause, they needed people to join their cause. You can't start invading other countries without the proper manpower. They used the societal norm of husbands protecting their wives and children as grounds to enlist. If you want to keep the people you love safe, join the fight. Make a difference. That form of propaganda is still used today. Think about it the next time you see an ad for the US Army. In 1940, they released a photo of children playing, and on it, in bright, big, bold red letters, when translated to English, it reads, Why We Fight for Our Children's Bread. You see, before they could condemn Jews, they needed to give everyone a reason for what's happening, for when, for why they needed to be invested and worried about it. In 1941, Nazi Germany carried out a surprise attack on the Russians. They proceeded to justify it by claiming that they were taking preventative action. To further this, in 1942, they released an illustration of a Nazi soldier using what looks like lightning bolts to kill a beast with a Soviet star on its forehead, striking it dead with the lightning in the shape of a V. You see, the Nazis wanted to claim the V for victory as a symbol for themselves, even though their enemies, the Allied nations, were already using it. The Nazis kept trying to paint themselves as heroes of the war. The Nazi regime wanted the people of Germany and German occupied territories to believe them and see them as a world power. They also claimed a comeback after their defeat in World War One. In 1942, they released an illustration of a stereotypical Jewish man hiding behind an American, British, and Russian flag. This was to symbolize that Jews were in control of enemy powers. On the illustration, the words, when translated into English, read, Behind the enemy powers, the Jews. This was only one of many posters they would release using mass media to diminish the Jews and make people fear them and disgust them. They painted all Jews as inside spies, and if that wasn't enough to worry people, the Nazis also painted them as dirty and unsanitary. In 1941, authorities would pass around flyers to the citizens of Poland. These flyers had an illustration of a man bundled up with a skull behind him and fleas all over him. The text on it reads, "Protect yourself from typhus. Avoid the Jews." They used this mass messaging to paint the Jews as dirty people that you should avoid. The purpose was to keep the Polish from providing aid to Jews fleeing the ghettos. The anti Semitism did not stop at just flyers with words and illustrations. In 1940, German propaganda ministry released a movie called Der ewige Jude, which means the eternal or wandering Jew. They framed this movie as a documentary meant to unmask the treachery and harmful influence of the Jews. They placed posters everywhere they could. Despite all of their efforts, the movie was a failure and no one really went to see it. Derek Jude was not the only anti Semitic movie to be released. They released several more movies, one of which was called Jude Juice, which was loosely based on Joseph Suss Oppenheimer. Not that Oppenheimer. This Oppenheimer was born in 1689 and died 1730, centuries before the war was even thought of or started. He was a German baker and what they called a court Jew. Pretty much he managed finances for royalties, which subsequently made him a lot of enemies. He ended up getting arrested and executed, but that's not how the 1940s German film painted him. They painted him as a conspirator who wanted to control the whole state and increase the power of the Jews. Unlike the other movie you mentioned, this one became a huge success. You see, the Nazis used media, not only illustrated and photographed, but also film and theater, to paint a narrative, to push this idea that a group of people were bad. And the worst part about it is that it worked in a lot of cases. Because if that's all the media that you are consuming, they're going to start to believe it at some point. And that form of propaganda still happens today. Happens in the States. It happens in Europe, in Russia, in like everywhere, where a group of people is marginalized and they are painted as something that they are not. There is so much propaganda that comes from World War II Germany. They were known for it. It's how they got as far and as powerful as they did. I have links below to my resources I used to get information for this podcast. They all have pictures, and even the movies I talked about. Propaganda did not start, nor did it end with Nazi Germany. Remember, with every political ad you come across, no matter which party, watch it, see what they are trying to convince you of, and do your own research. Just because a politician tells you that something is happening for the reason they say it, does not mean it's always true. Do your research, look for the facts, and decide for yourself. Are they telling you the truth, or simply just giving you propaganda so you believe what they want you to? Thank you for watching, or just simply listening, and remember to always, always check your facts.